Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Geopolitics with Mark. On this episode, I'd like to talk about the um, the potential war with Iran. That's going to be on every podcast right now, and what it means for the regime, as we like to call them, because Lord knows that if it's a regime, they have ayatollahs, they've got mullahs, they've got clerics. This is, and America's going in there and slapping them around with, government subsidized protests, riots, where they have agents that are, ransacking the city and, causing destruction in a hopes to like upturn or upset the population in contravention of the government. Except a few days later, they had 1 million people out in the streets, more than 1 million people, showing their solidarity with the government. So it's clear that, the government is supported. And you think about what's going to happen. You have America, the world's most expensive military. A third of all the naval assets are surrounding Iran. They're going to start bombing Iran. Iran turns around and starts lobbing missiles at Israel, knocks out the critical infrastructure in the first lobby of missiles. So it'll be just like a flash impact, and before you know it, it's like, hold on a second, we don't have water, we don't have electricity, we don't have, pick your utility. It's, we can't get gas. Everything is shut down. The only thing open is the airport with flights going 24/7, streaming people out of Israel to new homes. That's my impression for what will happen if there's an actual war. Now, I could be wrong. That could be an outlier kind of scenario, but I don't think it's that far from the realm of possibility. And I think that's what the Western nations should be preparing for. Is like, you've got a whole nation of people that they need a new home again. So, who's got the passports, who's got the housing, who's got the socialism, etc. So, but yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if Iran emerges from this, it shows that it's stood up to the most tough adversary, has either gotten them to back down or has overturned the attack and now is a far more important nation. So basically, my impression is Iran is a winner in this scenario no matter what happens. It's like, I don't want to see a war, but no matter what happens, Iran is a winner because, what's the most horrifying thing America could do is it could launch a preemptive nuclear strike on all of Iran's major cities. And in a flash, all the major cities are gone. That would be really crazy. That's like asking for Armageddon almost, because you have China and Russia right there. But they're gonna just be like scratching their heads, like, did they just do a nuclear strike on populations? This is another level of obscenity. Not that it's not that would they be that surprised? Would they be that surprised? Anyway, no matter what happens, in my opinion, Iran is going to be a winner. I think it's too difficult to force some kind of nuclear conflict. I don't think you can. It's too much. It's too risky. And so your next best option is like to win in a conventional war with all the assets you have. And I think Iran has the superiority in the sense that it can target the oil. So can shut down the global economy. And it has all these missiles that can't be shot down. This was demonstrated to us that these interception systems, they have a limited number of missiles, and that the math just isn't there. Even when you bring in a whole bunch of your defenses, Iran has missiles for days, and even the older ones weren't being shot down. So it's just like, I just don't understand the calculations they're making. But again, I'm not privy to all their information and their assessments of, likelihoods of success based on what they feel is the most. If they keep it limited to a few days or something, they're going to carry out some, high value mission, and then they claim it's a success and then get everything back home because, what happened in Venezuela, right? I mean, they got the leader, they, paraded him in New York, and are we really controlling Venezuela's oil? Is that country really giving up their control to the US? I mean, I don't know. I think these are outliers. We don't know. These are, America comes up with these really high priced, elaborate schemes in order to take out a high value asset. A leader, but that's basically all they have. What are they going to do when they face a nation that's resilient to leadership change, like the Venezuelans, like the Iranians? So now these, it's stunning, but it's not devastating. So Iran, when it starts to be stunned, it's like, holy shit. Okay, now it's like emerge into the beehive. The shit's starting to get real. So, they have all kinds of strategy for absorbing. Now listening to the experts, it's like they're saying that, Iran should be worried because America is the most formidable military power in the world, and Iran is a small nation. But again, the amount of the ballistic missile differential and the idea that they're going to be able to find all the missile sites and they're going to be able to knock them out in airstrikes, I think is crazy. I think they're not even factoring in Lebanon. You start a war with Iran. Iran is firing missiles to, as fast as it can reload them, and now Hezbollah's popped out of the caves and they're firing missiles as fast as they can reload them. It's just it could get serious. But my impression is that if they do a quick precision strike Iran, where it's just like Iran, just like with a modest number of missiles that can't be intercepted, hits the most critical stuff that shuts down the population facilities, then you create a window where they're evacuated. And I think the world supports them in their evacuation. It's like if the world can support them like this, they could at least support their evacuation as well. So, yeah, that's my impression, guys. I think it will change the world. So if Iran really goes to war with America, you're going to have $10 gas. It's going to be a totally different experience. You'll have a post 20th century. It'll be like the most defining moment of the 21st century and how it changed the next 100 years. Because, well, it'll be like COVID, where there's this gap period where economic activity grinds to a halt, and then but then the EVs begin to take over again. So you'll have the electric vehicles will come back, and now it's like, okay, we don't need gas anymore. Price of electricity, we figured out how to keep it low. So the world will rebuild in a resilient manner. But until it had, America had spent the last 20 years doing what it had promised to, like, have green revolution. Now when the price of oil goes to $10 a gallon, you had everybody on EVs, it wouldn't have mattered. But, well, so things are as they are. And, yeah, guys, there are analysts saying that this is existential for Iran more than Israel, or that it's like, I mean, it can be devastating for Iran. Like, thinking back to all those wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, The thing is, though, is Iran is much better prepared than Iraq, and Iraq was of those was the most best prepared. Afghanistan is like cave dwellers and goat herders, and they still chased us out of their country. So it goes to show that our wars don't have a finish line. They just kind of send people somewhere where they tell them they're terrorists. Then they're chasing people around the country who are really fighting them because they're upset that they're there, who they then become the terrorists. And then it's just this like cycle, where it's just like, okay, 20 years is up. Let's, mission accomplished. Let's get them home. That's it. And they move it along. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And you only appreciate how crazy it is when you understand how they set it up, how the war was set up with weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. In my opinion, 9/11, which the CIA cooked up in the most formidable false flag operation in all of human history to date. I don't think anything compares. Anything in plain sight of such, consequence, where you can just use that as the credit card justification for every Muslim invasion, every invasion into every Arab country in the Middle East, and remember 9/11. In my opinion, that's exactly what that was. So it's it's a crazy time that what we're living through, guys, as America's letting go of colonialism. It's just like this urge to want to hold on to the world where it was number one. It's like, I like that spot. It feels comfortable. But now China's number one in all the technology in like 20 years. And where are our companies now? And now it's frightening. And now that the leadership is frightened, it's like, where do we go? How do we get out of this conundrum? We no longer have the economic future. We have all these military assets. It's like, are we shaking people down for something, for a future? It's this like really like unhinged kind of, okay, we should get low and see if we can make a few yards with, it's so sad. It's very sad. It's very desperate. But that's what it looks like. It's like a desperate foreign policy masked as a tough guy foreign policy. And I think that's dangerous. That's a recipe for a hard time. I mean, sorry guys. I mean, it's just I don't want to ruminate. I don't want to exaggerate, but this is just the stuff that's going on in the world is just so crazy. And to be absorbing this all at once, to oh my God, Epstein, and how he's at the head of the government, and how it's like all the pedophiles are with the famous people and the government. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, it's like the ugliness of our capitalist systems emerged in that moment. And now I was saying, if they had on a dollar bill, in Epstein we trust, this is kind of like what it's becoming, because it's like, it's like if we allow this system to go unchallenged, and now we're expecting money from abroad to pour into the country as a means of investment, because it's like, how is this going to affect, all these, it's like how we treat this episode with Epstein. It's definitive of our national character, because it'll be written into the history books. What did they do? What did the majority do when they discovered their government was run by all these pedophiles? Did they try to change the system? What did they do when they discovered there was no democracy left? When the whole system was for sale, and the whole crux of their pitch is that we live in a democracy. It's just, it's absolutely crazy. We're creating the conditions, and you add onto that the conditions that are collapsing the middle class since the 80s. And as you're churning out garbage TV promising the American dream and all this, where you see the next generation is worse off than the parents, that they have to bring in immigration where they have lots of young people, because the next generation couldn't afford to have kids, but they have a young people problem. So how do we get young people there despite the fact the native population couldn't have kids? You know. So guys, these conditions are creating a social, like, kind of like instability. It's causing resentment. It's causing, but the it's not the migrants that are to blame. It's the population itself that isn't standing up to the government to tell the government, tax the rich, invest in the infrastructure so that we can grow as an economy, so that absorbing is exactly what we're doing on a regular basis, not just to replace a workforce discrepancy, age-based discrepancy, you know. So yeah, guys, I mean, it's the reality of, the day and age that we're in right now is so exciting in terms of how China is coming up, the BRICS are coming up, the West is adjusting to it, and at first they're kind of fighting it. They're like, but at some point something's gonna correct, and we're gonna begin to embrace it, and we're gonna feel like we're more dancing with Asia as opposed to like trying to battle them into some like corner or whatever to try to get them to behave how we want them to behave, like the impression that we're still on top leading the world, that we don't have enough, that we can't just, pretend that we're at one of the houses on the street and then we just like, put the garage door down and come home, big deal, we can deal with that. We have a global cul-de-sac where you have the world living on it, I think that's basically, we're going to become closer as a world. The world is going to become closer to becoming one nation. That's the logic of the species, that you have this like species mind that wants to organize itself in a way that it's going to efficiently be able to use as many brains as possible, keeping them safe in now that it's easy to do so, now that there's not a resource deficiency or technology deficiency. The world will organize itself to protect its people, to get basic conditions of basic global socialism and one global army, and then like a lot of attention to space. That's kind of the future, I imagine. But hey, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is Geopolitics with Mark, and it's just like, I think this war with Iran, it's just like, we're gonna either get punched out or we're gonna run. But let me know what you think in the comments, and have a good one.